Scruff's bath time. There are many different engines working on the Fat Controller's railway. Some are steam engines and some are diesel engines. Some of them get along and some don't. James often dislikes working with diesels. He likes working with Mavis, Boko, Daisy and Dennis, but he treated all others with deep suspicion. Diesels don't drink all the water, he would say to himself. How can I be sure I can trust a diesel engine? One day the Fat Controller came to Tim with Sheds to give out the jobs. Duck, you are to help Oliver on the Little Western, he said. There are lots of passengers to take today. Yes, sir, puffed Duck, and he set off. What can I do, sir? Asked James. Now, James, I have a good job for you, said the Fat Controller. A new engine has arrived on Sodor, and I would like you to work with him today. James was delighted. He often never got to work with a new friend first, but today made him very happy. Yes, sir, I'll go and meet him right now, he wished. He's waiting at the docks, added the Fat Controller. I will telephone the dock manager and I will give him the jobs you and the new engine will do. James agreed and he set off out of Tidmouth Sheds. As he raced for the docks, he was thinking about the new engine. He was getting more and more excited. I wonder if he's as big as me, he thought. Or maybe he's as small as Rosie. James put into the docks to look for the new engine. Then, as he rounded the bend, he could see a small engine standing by some crates. He looked like a diesel. James was surprised. The engine was small, square, and he was painted a lime green colour. James also noticed he was scruffy. Hello, I'm Scruff, cheered the little engine. Who are you? I'm James, said James uncomfortably. The dock manager came over to see James and Scruff. I have your orders for the Fat Controller, he said. James, Scruff is to help Whiff at the Sodor waste dump. Scruff is to learn how to handle trucks of rubbish, and you and Whiff are to help him out. James gasped. The Sodor waste dump wasn't a place he wanted to work at. Hurry along, please, said the dock manager. Whiff will be waiting for you. Yes, sir, smiled Scruff. Follow me, Scruff, sighed James, and he puffed off. Scruff took goodbye to the dock manager and followed on after James. As they puffed along, Scruff was enjoying himself. The scenery impressed him, and he saw Terence the tractor ploughing the field. But James was thinking about Scruff. He wasn't at all sure if he could trust him. He knew Scruff was new, but wasn't sure if he would play any tricks on him. How can I be sure I can trust Scruff? He thought to himself. James and Scruff arrived at the waste dump. It was very busy. There were trucks full to the top with lots of rubbish. There were tin cans, banana peels, paper, and some were full of bin bags. Scruff was impressed. Now this is my kind of place I want to work at, he smiled. Whiff puffed over to the engines. Hello, you must be Scruff, he smiled. Welcome to the Sodor waste dump. My name is Whiff. Thanks, Whiff, said Scruff. Let's get started. James sighed as he went to shunt some trucks. The three engines worked very hard together. The trucks were heavy, and it took a lot of puff to move the trucks around. Pooh, said James, trying to hold his breath. He didn't like shunting trucks of rubbish one bit. Whiff loved working at the waste dump. It was his favourite place. Scruff worked very hard, and James noticed that Scruff hadn't played one trick on him or Whiff. James started to like Scruff, and he soon took his mind off the rubbish. At last the work was done, and all the rubbish was sorted out. Scruff saw that everyone was leaving. Where's everyone going? He asked. Home, said Whiff. The work is done. Scruff groaned. But I want to shunt more trucks, he said. Don't worry, smiled Whiff. We'll shunt some another day. The manager of the waste dump came to see the engines. You have all worked very hard today, he said. Well done. Now you'd better go to the washdown. We can't have you smelling like a rubbish bin. James was pleased to hear this. Come on, time to get cleaned up, he smiled. Scruff was surprised. Cleaned up? He asked. Of course, said Whiff. It's important that we get clean after a hard day's work. Follow me, said James, and he set off out of the waste dump. Whiff followed, but Scruff was worried. He didn't want to go to the washdowns. The manager came back to see him. "Come on, Scruff," he said. "James and Whiff are waiting for you." "Yes, sir," Scruff sighed, and he set off. As they went to the washdowns, James was looking forward to being shiny and bright again. "You'll love the washdown, Scruff," said James. "All those bubbles and water can tickle your boiler." But Scruff wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about how he could get away from the washdowns. Then, as they passed the junction, Scruff saw his chance. James and Whiff pulled on ahead, then Scruff raced down the other track. "Stop!" the signalman shouted. "That's the wrong way!" James and Whiff heard this and raced back to the junction. Both engines saw Scruff race out of sight. "I'll chase Scruff," puffed James. "You go and tell the fast controller." "Right away, James," agreed Whiff. So James set off after Scruff. James raced as fast as he could. Scruff disappeared round the bend, but that didn't bother James. "Silly little engine," he thought to himself. "What could be wrong with him?" James rounded the bend and saw Scruff up ahead. Then there was trouble. Boko the diesel was up ahead. He was delivering milk wagons to the dairy. He had stopped at a signal. When Scruff saw this, he gasped. "Oh no!" he cried. "Help!" Scruff applied his brakes and tried to stop. The guard in Boko's brake van saw Scruff and waved a red flag. "Stop!" he shouted. "Stop!" But Scruff couldn't stop. He was going too fast. James was horrified by what he saw. "Look out, Boko!" he whistled, but it was too late. Scruff broke through the brake van and crashed into the first milk wagon. Luckily no one was hurt, but Scruff was covered in milk from buffer to cab. Boko was very cross. "Now look what you've done," he grumbled. James puffed up alongside Scruff. He was cross. "What have you done?" he boomed. Scruff felt silly. Milk trickled down his nose and burst onto his buffer beam. "I think it's time to get you cleaned up," said James sternly. Scruff gasped. He wanted to puff away, but milk had gone down his funnel, so he couldn't move. "We'll have to pull him to the washdowns," said James's driver. The drivers agreed, and James was soon buffered up to Scruff. James pulled Scruff away and whistled to Boko. "I'll send help," he called. Boko was pleased to hear this. James pushed Scruff down the line, but he didn't say a word to Scruff. He was cross with him. But Scruff was worried. He was sure he was going to be in trouble, and he was right. When they arrived at the washdowns, Whiff was waiting there with the fat controller. He was very cross. "Scruff, I am pleased with your work today, but not with your behaviour tonight," he said. "You have caused a lot of trouble." Whiff looked sternly at Scruff. "Why would you run off like that?" he asked. Scruff took a deep breath. "I don't want to be clean," he said. "Soapy water makes me feel uncomfortable, and it gets rid of the dirt on my paintwork." "It's important to look smart," explained James. "Engines need to be clean and shiny." "Everyone needs a wash every night," added the fat controller. "You can't go around being smelly, because then everyone will laugh at you." "Plus, no one will want to be your friend," finished Whiff. "I may smell a bit after a day's work, but even I have to have a wash." "If you want to be on my railway, you need to learn that having a washdown is essential to every engine," added the fat controller. Scruff sighed. He knew he had been silly, so now he decided it was time to get clean. So James shunted him to the workmen. They had buckets of soapy water and sponges. Scruff held his breath as the work began. But as they did so, instead of groaning, he laughed. "This tickles!" he chuckled. James and Whiff were surprised. "Why didn't you tell me it tickles?" Scruff laughed. "This is fun!" Everyone smiled. Scruff was now enjoying his washdown. "I hope you've learned your lesson, Scruff," said James. We all want you to be really useful, agreed Whiff.
I have, said Scruff. And next time I promise not to run away from a bush.
I'm very glad to hear it, smiled the Fat Controller.
From now on, I will try and be a more useful engine, added Scruff.
And we will all make sure you will, smiled James. Scruff felt much better. A washdown made him feel much happier. James was pleased too. Even though Scruff looked like a diesel, he knew he could still be a really useful engine, and a very clean one.